on, Todd.
Party on, Sal.
Rock on.
Rock on.
Well, welcome back, POJCasters, to another episode of the Party on Johncast, the most excellent, tubular, most awesome podcast about theology, relevant topics, what we're drinking, music, and just otherwise good old-fashioned fun topics. I'm Reverend Sal Marco, an ordained teaching elder in the Presbyterian Church of USA in the validated ministry of chaplaincy.
And I am Reverend Todd Laddick. I am an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church of Greater New Jersey, serving a congregation in Newton, New Jersey, formerly on higher ground from Sal.
The only higher ground I give them until January 1st.
Which we've already hit.
That's right. As of this recording. We'll go into that later.
More on that later. So as you can all tell, we're not recording this on January 1st. That would be crazy because it drops literally at midnight on New Year's. So so we are pre-recording this, but Sal and I, we're gonna rock this out, and Sal's got some stuff to share with us, I'm sure, beyond just what he's drinking. But that does, my friend, bring us into our Hebrews segment.
Hey Todd,
Yes,
how does Moses do his coffee?
How?
He brews it.
Oh,
See, I changed it up a little bit this time.
you did. New year, new joke. He brews
right.
it. That is awesome.
Oh,
And yet
still
bad. Yeah. Oh, but it's a new kind of bad.
it's a new bad.
So what are you drinking over there?
New year, new bad. I am drinking Sailor Jerry spiced rum. Maybe I do need to turn the light on because I can't see.
Sal was trying to avoid the halo over his head, but
I am Presbyterian, so. Sailor Jerry is the original Sailor Jerry spiced rum, Caribbean rum with spice, caramel, and other natural flavors. Bold, smooth, and 92 proof.
ooh, 92 proof. So it's no joke of a
That's
Sailor.
right.
I've actually had the Sailor Jerry. Was it from that bottle or is that a new bottle?
No, I've actually had this bottle since the weekend of Allison and I's wedding. Had a friend who has since unfriended me on Facebook because of Hair Trump.
Hair Trump.
Bought the bottle because he mentioned his girlfriend liked rum and Coke, so I bought a bottle of rum, and she didn't want to drink. So he and I just sipped on rum all night.
I happen to know that friend who unfriended me too, but that's okay. Actually, because of Hair Trump. There's a theme there.
There is a theme.
But Sailor Jerry's, I've actually had Sailor Jerry's because I've actually drank from that very bottle that you're pouring.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't literally drink out of it or drool into it, but I poured a glass.
And I've got my fancy leaning bourbon glass.
Nice.
But it is actually, for being 92 proof.
That's how you know.
It's very smooth. It's not top shelf. It's not bottom shelf. It's somewhere in the middle. It was about, $40 or $50 for the bottle.
Mid-range.
Very, very, very smooth.
Well, that's how you know Sal is getting serious about his bourbon. He now has bourbon glasses. How is it?
It's good. Very smooth. And the reason that, oop, I said his name. Oh, well. The reason that we drank almost half the bottle in 2 hours is it's so smooth. There's no burn when you drink it. It is really smooth.
It is smooth.
So it's good.
So, thank God there's 455 billion of name out there.
Yes, that's right.
So that brings me to what I'm drinking.
What are you drinking, Tom?
And normally I would have a better quality than this, though this isn't bad quality. It's just, standard. But I would love a Grey Goose or something like that. But I am drinking vodka on ice. My vodka happens to be Smirnoff. which is your standard decent vodka. You know, nothing too top shelf, but definitely not bottom shelf. But the reason I have Smirnoff is because my wife wanted to make vodka sauce. And I was like, she was trying to get me to go to the liquor store. I'm like, no, you go get it. So she picked Smirnoff. Which, you know, if you're making vodka sauce, you don't necessarily want to be fronting the money for Grey Goose or something like that to throw into a sauce. So Smirnoff was the right choice. Probably could have gone cheaper for the sauce, actually, but
I actually have a small bottle of craft vodka out there. Maybe I'll try that next time from Tannersville Distillery.
Ooh, I like a number of I like Grey Goose. Actually, if you want to get a more cheap Grey Goose, Pinnacle's actually really good. That it's also made in France, and just like Grey Goose, or is Grey Goose France? Yes. Grey Goose is France. So it's made in France, but it's slightly cheaper in price. But I also like Tito's. Tito's is really, really good vodka as well. Yeah,
that's really exploded around here.
Yes, it has.
Tito's.
Yep. So
handcrafted vodka.
Handcrafted vodka. Yep. Hopefully they're not wringing out the potatoes, but yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. A nice, good, stiff, fresh. There's something about vodka on ice, by the way, that like vodka like isn't like a harsh drink even straight, but when you put it on ice, like it chills and like becomes crisp and clean tasting. It's very like, I don't know, refreshing actually for a hard liquor. I wouldn't necessarily drink a bourbon and say, oh, that was refreshing. You know, enjoyable, yeah, but not refreshing.
I don't think I've ever really just drank vodka other than a martini.
Oh, that's a crime.
And actually, of the martinis I've had, I've actually preferred
gin.
No, actually tequila martini.
Oh, okay. Never had a tequila martini.
We went out for dinner at a fancy Italian restaurant here in West Milford, and they had it wasn't Jose Cuervo. It was like a 1892, like a more expensive tequila. It was a tequila martini.
Interesting. I am not a fan of vodka martinis because I love the extra dry juniper berry flavor of gin with a martini. So that's the way I get my martinis. Never tried a tequila, so I can't speak on a tequila martini, but vodka martini, not necessarily my thing. But you should try sometime with your handcraft or with your craft vodka. You should try just putting some ice into a glass and let it mellow out a little bit, and just it is a refreshing drink. Does the opposite effect of actually refreshing you, but it feels refreshing.
Feels refreshing.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that is our Hebrews statement or segment. But you did make a new statement out of it, so
I did.
Okay, so that leads us to our most excellent music segment.
Normal edition. Without a guest edition.
That's right.
We're starting the new year going back to our roots.
Yeah, and what's cool about that actually is last year, the last time we did an anniversary edition, when we had completed our first year, we had talked about all of the different guests we wanted to bring on. But I don't think you and I ever expected to bring on the sheer amount of guests we have. No. Let alone have repeat guests. Yeah. So it's kind of it's always fun to have a guest on, but it's kind of neat to go back to the roots as well and just kind of chill. Yeah,
that's right. You want to go first since I did the Hebrews segment first?
Sounds good. So I have been, now again, we're pre-recording, but this is actually appropriate to the time we're in. I've been listening to the soundtrack to the Nativity story. Have you ever seen the Nativity story?
Yeah, is that the one with Oscar Isaacs?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Up until this year, I've always shown that as Faith on Film.
Okay, right. And Sal knows, and anybody who's seen this knows, it is a pretty darn awesome.
I think it's one of the best nativity films ever.
Absolutely, including the nativity scenes that they show in the regular Jesus movies. This one just captures the heart and soul of what was going on in that time. And yeah, it blends it together. It doesn't differentiate between Luke and Matthew, but it doesn't have to. It really pulls the heart and soul of those elements together into a story that tells you of the nativity as accurately as I think they could on film. So, and the sets, right down to the sets, just the time he was born in, what it would have been like to be Mary in that situation, or Joseph for that matter. They really give Joseph his due, which rarely ever gets done.
And you see Oscar Isaacs before he becomes Poe Dameron from Star Wars.
That's right. This is
one of his early films.
This is Oscar Isaacs at the beginning of his career, of what has become a storied career, between being in Robin Hood and then obviously Star Wars and all the other things he's done in between. Yeah, he's a great actor. So so the song I'm picking the whole soundtrack because the soundtrack is beautiful, and you know what? It's still close enough to Christmas that you can listen to it and not feel ashamed. I mean, heck, if we can start listening to Christmas music at the beginning of November, we can start listening to Christmas music a little after December. So the song I'm picking off of this album is called In Rosa Vernat Lilium, which is Latin for what I believe to be unto Rose, lily of spring. It's the Latin doesn't, if I go on to Google Translate, it doesn't necessarily translate it perfectly, and I was researching any form of translation of that and couldn't really find any. But in can mean unto, which is the only thing that would make sense with the rest of it. Obviously, Rosa is rose, Vernat is spring, and Lilium is lily. So put that together, and I think my rough non-scholarly translation of that Latin is unto Rose, lily of spring, which makes sense because now the Savior's been born. It's toward the end. The Savior's been born, and it starts off like integrating the Coventry Carol. It integrates the Coventry Carol into the song, so it's clearly at the time when Herod, in the movie where Herod is about to send the soldiers to kill anybody 2 years and younger, all male children 2 years and younger. And so when you add that into the context of the song, here's the rose being Mary, who gave birth to the lily of spring, Jesus, and thus starts his life, which is going to be a life of really hardship, conflict, and yet out of that life comes the hope of eternity, which is the symbol of a lily. So it's a beautiful piece. It's an all male choir with a boy soprano, and it is just glorious. So that's my choice.
Nice. Good choice.
Thank you.
You just remind me, because I've been listening to two things a lot lately. One is because we are recording this during Advent. So there's an excellent, I've mentioned it before and I've heard it mentioned on other podcasts as well. Andrew Peterson, who's just a great writer, very reformed in his theology, has an album called Behold the Lamb of God, which takes us from Passover all the way through the Nativity. So it's basically an Advent. So there's two songs on that. One is Deliver Us. And one I've been listening to a lot is Labor of Love, which is about how it wouldn't have been a silent night that night because Mary, as a young woman and having seen what my wife went through in 30 hours of labor,
Nothing silent about it.
nothing silent about that.
No.
No. So check it out if you want. It's an awesome album. The one I'm going to talk about is I don't know if you know the band Love and Death.
Mm-hmm.
Love and Death. It's Brian Welch from Korn.
From Korn, right?
It's his side project.
Yep.
Around the time that he left Korn the first time, not too long after that, when he got clean, he became a born-again Christian. I don't necessarily agree with his theology.
Baptized in the Jordan River, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
But he got involved early on with the whole Bethel Pentecostal.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? White, something White, with the dreads. Like the whole theology of glory clouds and praying over graves and miraculous healings.
God bless them.
Yeah, you know. So, but Love and Death was kind of his Christian side project. So they finally have a second album coming out in February. So they released the first single off of it, which is called Down. And I will read you the lyrics. Let me pull them up. And it kind of made me think of New Year. Down, buried beneath. I feel like I'm running out of time. Down, make me believe. I want you to show me I'm alive. I've seen the slow disaster, wreckage of my life, silence before and nothing after, echoing inside. I confess I lied for this, I died for this. Repeats the chorus. And then it says, I am a sole survivor of self-inflicted wounds. Shadows hide the dying embers, burning out too soon. And it goes back to the chorus of, I feel like I'm running out of time. Show me I'm alive. Show me I'm alive. So it's a very raw. We'll post the music video in the notes. It's a very heavy, awesome sound. So
yeah, and all jokes aside about glory clouds and Pentecostal theology, we're at least I'll speak for myself. Very happy to hear anybody getting clean and coming to know Jesus Christ, no matter what what variety of denomination they end up falling into. He's saved just like you or I. We just have our theological disagreements.
Theological differences.
How you get there, yeah. Or what those, what it means to be filled with the Holy Spirit, and
I like his story because he did end up reconciling with Korn and rejoining Korn. He was good friends with Jonathan Davis. Because he's what's the word? Reconciled,
yeah, yep.
And in the process, Monkey, the bassist, came to Christ.
Yeah, and the funny thing is Korn. So Korn's in one of those weird places where they were completely non-Christian, secular band. And their music, in terms of their music, they're still a secular band, but now they're like half Christian, which is yep. It's like.
2/5 of the band is Christian.
Yeah, 2/5 of the band, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's power. It's a powerful witness to what Christ can do, and to the Christian members of that band, including Jonathan Davis. They're very open and inclusive and accepting of their friends and band members' beliefs, and. Yep. That's as it should be, Who knows what plays in store for the rest of those band members, but it doesn't matter because they love each other despite their differences. Yeah,
and despite our theological difference, I value because Brian Welch has even said because he got a lot of pushback from the Christian community when he went back to Korn.
Of course,
and he said, well. I'm doing what Jesus told us to do, and I'm witnessing to Christ. I'm just doing it with a secular band because he gets more eyes on him with a secular band.
Yeah, and they're his friends. Jesus didn't abandon his friends just because
his family.
Yeah, it's Christians. Oh,
anyway. Witness to the world, but don't hang out with those people.
Yeah. Witness how judgmental you are, just like the rest of the world. Which is not what the Christian message is.
No.
So, awesome music choices. So that brings us into our main segment, which we're just keeping it simple, keeping it real. We're going to discuss how the year ended for each of us, and then go into we'll talk about how the year ended, how the new year is beginning, and what our expectations and anticipations are for the new year, 2021. So yeah, who wants to? You want to go first, Sal, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Sounds good. Got the bigger news.
Yeah, that's right. So the year is ending, or has ended. Ended with well, I have an 8-month-old boy.
Yes, you do.
who is now going around the house quicker than a speed racer, crawling around, standing up, all that stuff. It's funny because we've been singing all I want for Christmas is my two front teeth, because his two front teeth are coming in.
They're coming in. Yep.
So I now have a teething baby.
Oh, enjoy that.
Oh yeah. He's such a well-mannered, like he every morning like at night he wakes up crying and I pick him up and I comfort him and he goes right back to sleep. But as far as the teething, like I saw on Twitter our friend Drew, whose child was teething, and he's like, how do you handle this? I'm like, I was expecting like chaos and like nonstop screaming. I was like, no, smiling.
You'll have to report back to us in say 5 or 6 more months when the molars and all of that start coming in.
True.
see how that goes. But for now, he's handling it like a true stoic Calvinist.
Like a true stoic Calvinist.
Yes.
Accepting
God's sovereign will and
accepting his place. That it was predestined before the beginning of time that this was meant to happen.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's cool. The other thing that happened is I'm ending the year with a rather big transition. After 7.5 years of being either a chaplain or director of mission and pastoral care at my retirement community, I have stepped down from that position and have taken on the role of hospice chaplain with the local hospice chaplain. It's part of a nationwide company, but it's local to northern New Jersey. So covering the three northwestern counties of New Jersey: Sussex, Passaic, and Morris. For those who are in New Jersey. For those who aren't New Jersey, you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what that means. Take a look at the map, and it's basically the upper left northwestern corner of the state, including where I currently am in Newton. So Todd will occasionally have higher ground than me, but not
depending on where you are. Right. That's right. Depending where you are that day.
It's a position with hospice. When hospice is of the healthcare facilities, hospice is actually required and mandated by CMS and Medicaid to have chaplains on staff.
That's right.
So, put my resume in thinking, it's just a job. Turns out the person who coordinates the chaplains and does the bereavement counseling was doing his CP when I was a per diem at the hospital, and so he remembered me and how much I had helped teach him.
Wow.
So went for the interview, went early to catch up with him, and he said, listen, basically we have 5 other candidates who we are not going to call because we want you. We know your character, we know your work, we know you're a good chaplain. So he said, basically, the job is yours. And if you're willing to do bereavement counseling and bereavement coordinating, when I retired 1.5 years, that job is yours too.
Oh, so this person's retiring.
So he's retiring in a year and a half. It's like
a second career type deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of a similar situation I had to when I started with Todd at that facility, where someone was leaving and I was able to move up in the position.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. And it's an opportunity that's more money. It's a more regular schedule. No on call. My current position, as I'm the solo chaplain for a 250
Oh, you're
bed.
not going to be on call.
Not going to be on call.
Oh, that's great. Because that's, I was trying to figure that out because you were saying how, like, you'll have your weekends for your family. And I was thinking to myself, but this is hospice, like by nature, right? Like,
yep.
Okay, so that works.
So basically what I was told is a lot of the social workers handle the over the weekend stuff unless I'm specifically requested on a weekend. I spoke to a hospice chaplain who's a local Methodist, works for another local company.
She says, yep.
Says over the 2 years she's been there, she's maybe been called on the weekends 7 times.
Yeah.
Out of 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's a bonus for me because being the solo pastoral caregiver for a 250 bed facility, I'm constantly on call. The last, as Todd would know, the last month alone, I've been called in every weekend.
Well, yeah, I'll get into my end of that on a little bit, but I do know that particular role of director of mission and pastoral care was supposed to start off as being a solo full-time role that grew to expand to have associate chaplains to help out, because that role is so administrative that it leaves little time if you're going to put in the time you're supposed to be putting in. Salaried people always put in more than 40 hours, but you anywhere between 40 and 60 hours a week, give or take on a salaried position. If you put that time in, most of it is going to be taken up by administrative work. And so the idea was, that's why you're the director of mission and pastoral care, so you can direct the associate chaplains to have a more vibrant, but instead that never expanded at that particular organization, and it was a solo chaplain job where you're not only doing 40 to 60 hours of
administrative
stuff. You're throwing in the chaplaincy end of it too.
You're doing another 20 to 30 hours of chaplaincy.
Right.
And unfortunately, and Todd knows him, the gentleman who was the corporate director of that program, did such a good job instilling chaplaincy into the program, into the company. Got a chaplain in all of the full service buildings. Met all his goals for his 5-year plan, and then was told, "Oh, you did so well, you worked yourself out of a job.
Adios." Yeah.
Adios. And so for the last 3 years, chaplains have had no direction from home office.
It's been a nightmare.
A nightmare. And while the company still, and the CEO still likes to say, we're proud to be a faith-based community, there's been no cohort meetings for the chaplains. There's been no support from home office for the chaplains. And
no direction. Like,
really. No direction. Just here, deal with, figure it out.
Here's our crap. Figure it out. Yep. Right. Oh, and by the way, you're here to support us, not us you.
Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah, that's I mean, honestly, like as I know somebody said to you, it was a good run. You did your absolute best there, and people you served, by and large, for the most part, appreciated it. There's always one or two who won't, but you did what you could, and now it's time for you to turn that page into a new season, and I'm excited as hell. I like the fact that while you're in Morris and Passaic County, you'll be on lower ground than me. And then depending where you are in Sussex County depends on whether you're on higher ground. So at least 2/3 of your coverage will be on lower ground for me. So I still feel good.
You still feel superior.
Yes. Well, not superior. I just divinely chosen.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. So yeah, I've turned in my resignation. I begin the 4th of January. Had to, and then throw into the mix, I got another job interview offer today, which I had to turn down because I just took this job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I've sent sent a letter to my boss, and my boss has been understanding. He's, I've been clear with him the last year that I wasn't happy and I'm looking. So, but I did send a letter to home office that basically said in good conscience, I can no longer stay. And for a company that prides itself on being faith-based, the people you have tasked to guide and oversee that vision and mission, you have left unsupported and unvalidated. So
right. And truth be told, while the one person you're speaking of, your boss, is a very wonderful person and has been supportive of you by and large, I think, to the best that he can be.
Yep.
But this is a systemic thing. This isn't about any one person's leadership. And no matter how supportive one person might be of you, when the whole system is unsupportive, it's just the way it's going.
Yeah, that's what I wrote in my letter to the home office, that I've been on record multiple times that there's dysfunction in this system and it's not being addressed, and I, in good conscience, can no longer stay neutral.
Yeah.
So rather than drop boundaries and become part of the problem, I'm gonna step out.
Yeah. So makes sense. It's the right time for you. So that's how the year ended. How is it beginning for you now? Obviously the new job.
It's beginning with the new job, which is my office will be my Jeep for the most part.
Not a bad office, man.
Yeah. Which means I got to start looking for a new Jeep eventually.
Yep.
But it's starting off pretty positive. I've got an almost 1-year-old child, and excited to see what happens with Calvin, and pretty looking forward to the future with Calvin, and if Calvin gets a sibling, possibly.
That would be awesome.
That's a hope for the new year, as a sibling for Calvin. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, which is part of what we'll get into later in the episode.
Yes, right.
About expectations and reality. But yeah, so looking to more time with my family, being able to do things, take Calvin for Jeep rides on the weekends, and
cool.
Playing in the foot of snow we have outside.
We're going to have to coordinate now a little more strategically when we go to Tyneham Fet.
That's right.
Because that tradition has to carry on.
Or we can meet at the one in, where's the other one? There's another one. They have another location.
Oh, in Rockaway. Yeah, we could meet there too. Yeah. But that tradition definitely has to carry on.
Yep.
I've actually never been to the one in Rockaway, so I'd be interested to give that one a go.
Never been to the Rockaway one. That tradition will carry on. I'm looking forward to, when this airs, it'll be last weekend, but this coming weekend.
I was going to say, we forgot how the year's ending for you. One very important thing. Right.
How about that? I'm getting more sleeve work with Amanda, who we've had on our podcast before.
Absolutely. We got to get her back on.
Yeah.
So, when this whole pandemic thing, or if she Zooms, she probably Zooms.
That's right.
She doesn't anymore.
So we're going to sit down with her on Sunday and getting Johnny Depp's version of Mad Hatter on my left arm. We just got to figure out where we put it, because she said to be as lifelike as possible, she's got to take up a lot of my arm. So I have to figure out if I'm willing to sacrifice some of my forearm or do the upper arm.
Yeah. Wait, what's this? Did I just pour myself a little more? Oh, I could go a little more generous than that. There we go.
I'm pouring a little bit more rum.
You think this is generous?
Oh, that's very generous.
I'm all about generosity during this time of year. You got to live what you preach.
That's right. So yeah, that's a tattoo that will probably take more than one sitting. So that's.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait, and I can't wait to see. So you're getting that done Sunday, which would be December 20th.
Yep.
Yeah, 20th. Awesome. So that's your story, and you're sticking to it?
I'm sticking to it.
So that brings me to my story. How am I ending the year? Well, I don't have any big transitions, so to speak. I almost said transmission. I had to pause there. It's like transitions. Yeah.
So, are you transitioning, Todd?
I am transitioning from one word to the next. So I don't have any big transitions like
I do,
like you do, where I'm leaving a job, and I'm in a situation that is different than Sal's. Sal is in the call system. Well, you're in the call system even within a church setting if you were to take a church, but you're in a call system definitely as an extension minister.
As a validated minister,
Right.
I'm
right. Oh yeah, I'm using Methodist terminology. Sorry.
So in the Presbyterian terminology, it's a validated ministry, but within the Presbyterian system, it's a call system. So essentially, just like with any corporate job, you have to find a job and be hired or offered the job before you can be ordained. But then, unlike parish pastors, you're not installed. You just simply get a job. So
you get a job, and then you have to report every year what you're doing just to make sure.
Doing. And that the disadvantage to that, the advantage is I have a lot of freedom. The disadvantage is because I'm not called and installed, I don't have access to the very lucrative and very nice pension system.
Yeah, that's a bummer. That really is a bummer. And I think actually, no, it may work the same way. I don't want to say whether it does or doesn't because I'm not sure. It actually, I think works. I don't know about the pension system. I think all clergy are in the pension system, to my knowledge, in the Methodist Church, but it does mess with medical benefits because, is your job going to provide them for you, or especially if you're half-time. Now, you didn't have that issue because you were full-time, so your place of employment provided them for you. When I was at that facility, I was part-time there and part-time, what they call half-time appointment at the church I was serving. There is no such thing as a half-time appointment. It just means that you serve the church for half the pay. And that also allowed me to free up my schedule a little bit to be able to pull off the other side of things. But it was crazy. It was like, Sal knows this. It was basically like doing two full-time jobs, no benefits.
Which
literally no benefits.
Yep, which is what I was doing when I was part-time. I was part-time there and doing per diem work at the hospital. And
you were doing the same thing at that time. Yeah, both of us were like, if you could have seen two crazy people running around together with like they had their heads chopped off. I
was actually technically doing three jobs because I was doing pulpit supply on top of all that.
You were also doing pulpit supply, but that's because you're a glutton for punishment.
I am, and I wanted to show this Methodist how itinerancy was done.
Not quite like that, but but it's closer than what we call itinerancy. But anyway, so in the itinerant system, in the Methodist system, we have a bishop who appoints pastors to wherever they are. So I don't have to go and apply for a job at a church. I am appointed, and whenever the bishop sees fit, the bishop will move me from where I am to another appointment. Pastors can have a say in that. You can, if you feel like you're no longer effective in a ministry, or there's some other circumstance like you need to move closer to your family. I know somebody who started off in the New York. He lived in Brooklyn, I believe, and he ended up being transferred down to Florida because of family. You had to be closer to family. So that can happen too. But overall, the bishop has the final say, and the bishop places us in a church. With that said, so I don't have any big news to really share in that regard. So I'm ending the year looking back on everything that has happened from March onward. I mean, January and February were pretty quiet. February, I went down to visit my family. Well, this is important. Went to visit my family, as I often do. Once I get past January, I have some free time, usually before Lent kicks in, and I'll take a week to go and visit my parents, who I don't get to see very often. They live many states away from me, further south. So I went to visit them, and as it turned out, it was the last time I would ever get to see my grandfather alive. He was doing well, 92. Well, he wasn't 90. He was 91 at the time. His birthday was in August. So in August, he's 92, doing very well. And then one day, he got up and looked normal, acted normal, did everything he normally does. And 12 hours later, he was dead. Just died of natural causes, old age. Heart decided it was done.
Yep.
and that was that. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because of the futility of life. Like, here was a strong man who looked like he had nothing wrong with him, and truly physically had nothing wrong with him. But one day his heart said, yeah,
no.
He didn't have any real heart. I mean, he did have a pacemaker the last couple of years. There was minor heart issues, but he didn't have any major heart issues. It was more to make sure the rhythm was, he was getting AFib, or I don't know what it was, but at 92, you expect those types of things. He didn't have any clogged arteries. He didn't have any heart disease, so to speak. He was just old, and the pacemaker was there to keep his heart, acting normal. Yep. So yeah, one day he just, that was it. The heart decided, I'm done. And unfortunately for my kids, they didn't, they haven't seen him for a year and a half. We were hoping to go down, if the pandemic cleared itself out by the summer, maybe see them. We weren't sure if that was going to work or not. Still aren't sure if that would work or not. But unfortunately they haven't seen him for a year and a half, and he passed away. So that was a shock to our family. And Sal knows, because he covered me. I went down to be with my parents and support them during that time. There was no funeral, because he was, his plot is in a national cemetery in Florida. So his body got shipped down there, and he didn't want any services or any much to do. There's going to be some celebration of life at some point, but basically he got buried. And yeah, so I just went down to be a support to my parents, help out, lift my mom. It was my mom's dad, lift her spirits up. So that's the biggest news I have for the ending of this year. But looking back on the year, I mean, from March onward, I can only describe this year in one word. Hell. This year was complete and utter hell. Sal and I especially, and anybody who's a healthcare worker, anybody on the front lines, anybody dealing with this pandemic in any sort of special way, knows that that this year was one of the most challenging years, probably the most challenging year anybody can think of to be in ministry, to lead a church, or to help people who are grieving. And you're not just helping people who are grieving from COVID deaths. You're helping people who are grieving from isolation, from other consequences of moral injury. I did a funeral in the spring, late spring, for a former youth's father, who I say former youth, being that she's no longer a youth. We're still very much connected. There's no former about it, but she, her stepfather passed away because he had some sort of stent or something put in him, a procedure put in him before the pandemic happened. And then a couple weeks later, everything shut down, and that ended up staying in him 2 months longer than it should have, and more than likely caused sepsis, which caused his death. So he didn't die from COVID, but he died from COVID, and so there's a lot of those things that are that we've had to deal with this year. But with that said, there's been some rewarding things that have come out of this as well. As much as it's a curse, the ability to use technology in new and exciting ways. Our Advent services and Christmas Eve service and all that were completely online. So that's never been done before. And at this recording, I don't even know how that went over, but I'm hoping well. Yep. So there's all of that. And then the uncertainty, which is how I'm starting the new year. Where does all of this go? Okay, I just heard a nurse Nobody saw my eye roll, but but Sal, I just heard a nurse say, well, now that the vaccines are out, everything should be back to normal by April. And it's like, no, you're a nurse. You know better than that. You know that they're gonna phase this in, but most of us won't have gotten the vaccine by April. Like, so
we'll be lucky if we get it by April.
But this is a certain person who's a Trump supporter, and like it's like Trump over science. And I'm not trying to get political, but that's what this has been. It's like Trump over science. I'm in the scientific profession, but I deny science. I deny the very profession I'm in. It's like the science of the very profession I'm in. So I don't know what to say about that, but there's so much uncertainty out there. We don't know where any of this is going. How does the church recover from this, Sal? That's, like financially, good news. We picked up some givers that weren't giving before because of the availability of online giving. We now offer that as an option. There's some people who don't write checks, who faithfully give, who've been attending our church, but now they faithfully give because this is the way they feel comfortable giving, which I knew would happen, right. But not enough of them to make up for the people who aren't giving because they're just not in church.
Yeah, that's right.
And no matter how many times you beg, mail your checks, some of the pledgers and some of the more faithful people do, but a lot of those people that would, if they were there, aren't giving. And so, like, how do we come back from that? And also, how do we come back to in-person worship when people now are comfortable with worshiping at home behind a TV set on their couch?
Well, there's some of our colleagues who are heralding this as the greatest invention for church since sliced bread because it's a new form of community. I think it's a supplemental community. Yeah,
it's working for the time we're in, but it certainly doesn't replace in person. Like for me,
I don't think Jesus ever said go and be digital.
Right. One of the go and be digital. Right. One of the greatest theological quandaries of my life was having to decide whether I was going to participate in online giving. And I'm still not happy with my decision. I still, I chose to, and I think overall I chose for the right reasons. And I think it was good for the people to be able to at least feel that sacramental communion together, because it was together on Zoom. We did, it wasn't like we didn't see each other. But it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And I'll get comments from people going, oh, wow, we were in person from September till November. And I'll get people that say, oh, we took communion right along with you when you were taking communion on Sunday. And I'm just like, right now we're still in that time. So I don't feel terrible about it, but that's going to continue. It will. Mm-hmm. And there's no way of stopping it. It's aside from don't stream your services, which we're not going to, I would rather stream my services and let that be a risk, but I don't know. I just
did a pulpit supply for a mutual friend of ours, Todd, and I did it the first Sunday of the month, and oh, you're doing communion, and I was, and I knew I was going to break my rule of not doing communion virtually, mm-hmm. but it's his congregation has already been doing it.
Yeah.
So I had my elements, and it was,
And how did it feel to you?
I felt like I was doing a puppet show.
Right? Like, it's weird. When you do it on Zoom, to give Zoom a little credit, you're everybody, like I have everybody hold the elements up, and they're being blessed at the same time or taking it at the same time. That to me is the best way to do it. If you're going to do it online, because it is an act of communion, an act of community, even though it's virtual, but it's still not the same, because you're not sharing from the same loaf. You're sharing from, however many people's loaves are there. I think Christ works in it, but it's just hard for me to get over it. Yeah.
I don't feel physically in communion with anyone.
Right. You're not physically in communion at all with anybody. And so, that's basically how my year ended and how it's beginning, with uncertainty. I would say, without beating the dead horse. Oh, by the way, before we go into anticipation, I too forgot something I'm ending the year with, which is a very awesome thing. The day before Sal gets his magnificent tattoo. How did we forget to bring these up?
I don't know, man.
The day before Sal gets his magnificent tattoo, I am going in December 18th. That's Saturday, a couple days away. Going in to get yet another piece of my already coming together sleeve. There's this, and there's Jack Skellington and Sally, and then the rest is fill-in. So fill in and touch ups on certain things. So this is coming together quite smoothly, and it's just coming together smoothly. So that's all I can say to that. I will say that my year has also ended with a high number of funerals. The amount of funerals I have had to do, and Sal knows this, I just did 2 in one day. The other day, the day before the big snowstorm. So it was Wednesday, right? Yep. Yeah. Or no, Tuesday. On Tuesday, I did two services in one day. Like the amount of services that I've had to do, has been trying, to say the least. And I know that's the same on your end too, Sal.
Same on my end. I remember we recorded our podcast with Bill in Hoboken a couple of days before the whole lockdown started.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
Hoboken cigars.
That's right. I've, unlike Todd, I didn't start doing digital online church for my community until probably August.
You had Todd to pull from on that because I had months of experience.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I started in August because that's when I took paternity leave to be with Calvin for a month. So I had to do something to have chapel. So I just kept doing that from August, September, October, November, December. I don't stream it live. I just record it and throw it up on our in-house system. But never expected to become a content creator and do so much editing. Like this week alone, I'm recording and editing 5 services between chapel services, memorial services, and Christmas services. So that's new. But
yeah, and to give you guys a kind of a schedule of what Advent has been like on the church end of things, and I know it's been just the same on Sal's end of things because he's got to put those services together too. So just this week, we met on Sunday, the 13th, to record the choir pieces. We had a limited choir, socially distanced, wearing masks, limited choir, just to do a couple of anthems, just so it had some normalcy to the Christmas Eve service. So we recorded those on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, we recorded December 20th service, which is the following Sunday. Then now we're recording the Party on John cast for which is Thursday the 17th. The 18th, I am recording the rest of the Christmas Eve service. Saturday, I am getting a tattoo and then spending the rest of my day editing the Christmas Eve service. Sunday, we're coming together to record our Blue Christmas service, followed by Monday recording Sunday the 27th service. And all of this, minus the Blue Christmas service, which we are live streaming, all of this has to be edited. So, just try to wrap your head around that. Like that kind of, does that sum it up, Sal?
That sums it up. Someone at work said, well, why don't you record some services for January? So we have... And I said, yeah, if you want to gouge my eyeballs out, I sat in my office the last 2 days just trying to string services together.
It's like, no.
Let's not. That's not. The actual recording of those services takes 30 minutes to an hour. The editing takes 3 to 4 hours per service.
So, Sal, are you going to continue to record your coffee talks while you're no longer employed at that place?
No, but you're welcome to subscribe to my channel.
Amen. So,
unless you want to pay me per diem rates.
That's right. Per diem chaplain. That's not a bad deal. So basically, my anticipation for the year to come is that things will get back to normal at some point, by summer or late summer or early fall, get back to normal where we can be in person. We can begin to rebuild what has been torn down because of this pandemic. I have so many ideas of things I want to do in terms of ministry and mission in the church that I don't know if I can do, will be able to do, when I'll be able to do it. So basically get back to in-person worship and begin to rebuild not only attendance, but the mission and ministry of the church. I mean, we've been doing mission and ministry throughout this time, but you're limited what you can do virtually. You're limited to what you can do. We're doing it. We're actively doing it. We're serving our community in vital in ways that I'm proud of throughout this pandemic. But you're still limited what you can do. Yep. So,
yeah, I anticipate going back to church, and it's not going to be normal, ever going to be normal. But
yeah,
I miss going to church.
Yeah, because you haven't been there physically in a while, right?
The only physical church service we've been to is when we went out to have Calvin baptized out in Long Island.
Okay.
That's the last time I took communion in church.
Gotcha.
But we haven't been to our community of faith, the Episcopal Church, since March.
Do they have online services?
They've been doing the early services, then is streamed online, and then they've been doing an outdoor service at 11.
Okay.
But we haven't felt comfortable taking Calvin.
Right.
And just recently, one of the people on the altar guild who do communion tested positive, so it's like that's why we haven't been going.
So you're stuck to virtual, basically.
We're stuck to but what it has meant for Alice and I, I'm doing chapel services all week, but we just sit and take Calvin for a walk, or if I have time, I watch a little bit of church online. But it's been more, let's be a family and go do something.
Right. Yeah. So that's it. That's where it is. So I'm sure each and every one of our listeners has a way in which they've ended this year, 2020, and obviously have started their 2021 at the time of listening to this, and have expectations and anticipations. Now, some of us are thrilled at the electoral outcome. Some of us are not. Some of us are really upset and angry about that. Some of us are saying good riddance, Air Trump, and some of us are saying, where's our president? We want him back. Some of us will never understand why that is, but we all have our hopes, our fears, our anticipations of what's to come. But ultimately, we as human beings, let's think back to December 2019. We all thought 2020 was going to be the year. It was going to be our year, right? Good riddance, 2019. Hello, 2020. Look at us now.
Yeah, with all the 2020 vision jokes we made in December 2019, you think we would have saw this coming?
You would have thought, right? And this is every year. We wish away the year that is to welcome the year to come. I think maybe some of us are less joyful about that, or less ignorant to that this year. But let's think about this in terms of previous years and years to come. We have our hopes and anticipations, and then as the year courses onward, some, if not all, of those hopes and anticipations fall by the wayside. And this is an important thing for us to remember. And I can say it now because I have a beard that is brewing here that even John Calvin would be proud of. And so I feel like I'm a little more reformed with this beard, or at least reformed looking. So this is what it comes down to, folks. We have a God who is sovereign, a God whose plan of salvation has been laid out and is at work. And our hopes and our fears really are nothing more than, for the most part, our selfish human desires. Now, some of those fall in line with God and come to be, and some of those don't.
I'm gonna shave that beard, Todd. You're sounding pretty Calvinist.
Am I right? Right? Like, but the truth is. The truth is that we have to, as human beings, recognize that we're limited in our sight. Our sight is never 20/20, and
The Johns agree.
The Johns do agree on this, and I know John Wesley would. We have the hope and assurance, to use Wesleyan language, the hope and assurance of God's salvation on us. We can count on that because God is not a liar. But ultimately, it's what God's will is that we should be praying to come and be done. You know, thy will be done, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's where it's at. So do you have anything to add to that, my truly Calvinist friend?
I don't. I think it's fitting we're coming out of the season of Advent before Christmas time, which is a season of hope.
Yeah,
we can have hope in God's sovereignty and his providence. Everything has been, truly believe that, as Paul says, God works all things for those who love him, and he will see them to completion.
Yeah. Despite our plans, in spite of our plans, in spite of anticipations. Yeah.
It said that Calvin's motto was, my heart I offer to you, Lord, promptly and sincerely. I think that's kind of ultimately what I think our New Year's resolution should be, is just to offer our heart to the Lord promptly and sincerely, because, our plans are always ultimately, sometimes they work out, but ultimately, unless they're aligned with God's plan.
That's it. Yeah. So just put your faith and your hope in God. This pastor, may be uncertain what the future holds for his congregation or for the church as a whole globally, given this pandemic. But ultimately, whatever comes to be, God is.
Yep.
Whatever comes to be, Jesus Christ is Lord.
Yep. And this chaplain knows that he doesn't know what the future holds, but he knows who holds it.
Amen. And not only God is, but God with us. God is with us. So what more hope do we need? Whatever comes to be, God is with us. Emmanuel.
Yep.
That's a good note to end it on, I think, Sal.
Amen.
Amen. So, as always, friends, check out our episode notes. We've got some goodies in there from the things that we've discussed. Cheers to you on this nice, beautiful, overly generous second glass of vodka. And just, remember, be excellent to each other.
And don't be a jerk.
Rock on.
Rock on.